Hi, everyone who's joining. I'm just waiting for Rux to join me, and we're going to talk about the astrology of 2023. Okay, there she is. Hi, hi. Hi.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you, Anastasia?
Good. It's still light outside, so enjoying the sunlight for now. Not for,
Well,
not for you.
look outside. It's completely dark at 7 p.m. here in the UK. Yeah, very very excited for this to happen at any hour. Any hour. Finally, we're talking about 2023.
Yeah. Yeah, are you feeling Mercury retrograde? And like anyone who's watching us, you guys, are you feeling it too?
So I was today really kind of like keeping my fingers crossed. To be able to like join this live just because I caught a cold this week, and until the very last minute I'm like, oh, I hope I have my voice and I can talk and I feel good, and here I am
Are
last
you,
minute.
how is your voice now?
It's all right, it's all right. I mean, I'm a little bit like congested, so if my voice sounds funny, please forgive me, everyone, but yeah, I made it. I think that's the most important thing.
Did you get tea? Are you like hydrated?
All teed up here. No more,
Okay,
no
that's
more.
good. It's weird. It's been like stuff has been going around. People are becoming more relaxed, I think, about the regulations and coughing in public, and it's a lot
Mhm.
easier to catch things.
I think so. I think that's what's happened. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I had like the weirdest thing because I was actually watching your video and like sometimes listening to other astrologers talk about the horoscope kind of resonates more, I think, for me.
Dave.
And with like retrograde in the fourth house for me as a Libra rising, of course, today my like wardrobe broke and and I had to like I called in my boyfriend and he came in and he was like, "It's so nice to have a girlfriend. There's always things to do."
I love that. I love that. I love that. And I bet your Venus in Virgo is like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate this.
yeah.
This is
And
my love language.
His Venus is in Cancer, so it's like perfect. There's like,
Somehow it works. Somehow
yeah,
it works.
come do
Retrograde.
things for me. Are you
Exactly.
excited about 2023?
I am, mainly because my Saturn return is coming to a freaking end.
Oh my
So,
God.
yes.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
about you?
I am. I'm excited about Jupiter and Aries. I'm excited to see what the eclipses in Aries going to bring us
Yeah.
and all of that stuff. We haven't introduced each other. Do you wanna talk a little bit about your background? What type of astrology you do?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm a Western tropical astrologer. I practice a mix of, I would say, modern, evolutionary, combined with more traditional techniques from Hellenistic and medieval astrology. But I do feel like I veer more towards the modern and evolutionary, let's say, branch of astrology. I'm a full-time practicing astrologer. I work with clients. That's what my day-to-day looks like. And I create content mainly for YouTube and Instagram.
Yeah, and your channel is written in the stars by Rux,
Thank
right?
you. That's it. That's it. Written in the stars by Rex on YouTube.
So if you haven't followed her channel yet, definitely follow it. It's like very insightful, very good quality astrology.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And for people who don't know who I am a traditional tropical astrologer as well. I think I choose more Hellenistic approach, so I use more with Hellenistic astrology and Hellenistic techniques. And similarly to you, my everyday life is basically seeing clients and creating content for YouTube, for TikTok, for Instagram, for all the things. And it's Anastasia does astrology.com or Anastasia if you speak it, if you know how to say
Like
it. If you want to
I
say
pronounce it.
Anastasia.
Like I pronounce it. Eastern Europe. Eastern Europe.
Yeah,
All the way.
yeah, yeah. That's the original pronunciation. That's how like Russians pronounce it.
Love it.
Yeah,
Love it. Love it.
yeah,
Um, Anastasia, please tell us a little bit more about something that you've started to do this year. Am I making that up? The
yeah.
candles, magical candles.
Oh, good point. Yeah, actually, so Jupiter has been in Aries already. We're going to talk about Jupiter in Aries because we're doing second part of it starting December 20th this
Yep.
year until
Yep.
May 16th next year. So when Jupiter was in Aries first round, for me, it's also my Jupiter return. So I had created candles and oils that have magical properties. I sort of had this like, as you know, in true Jupiter in fashion, Aries fashion, just like, just do it. Here's this idea that I want to like implement. So I started working with electional astrology, choosing moments that have potency, that are good for specific reasons. And I have created candles and oils to work with Venus. Let's say your Venus is in a complicated place in your chart, or it's placed in Aries, Scorpio, or Virgo. I have candles for Mercury. I have candles for Jupiter. So we don't have to be passive in astrology, right? We always have the power to work with the transits and energies that are happening. So this was my attempt to, be more proactive when it comes to handling challenging transits or challenging natal placements.
I
And
love
you
it.
can find them on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com, if you're interested.
Folks, thank you so much for sharing that, Anastasia. Just because I feel like as astrologers, we describe a lot to people. This is what you're dealing with. This is what you're here to learn. These are the challenges. These are the opportunities. But when it comes to more challenging transits or natal placements, sometimes people feel a little bit like, what do I do with this? I know this is difficult, but how do
Exactly,
I
yeah.
manage it? And I do believe that remediation techniques and tapping into magical thinking, such as the practice that you were doing. So creating specific objects at certain moments in time in order to mitigate some of the more challenging aspects in the sky. This is such a beautiful kind of way to offset and to make the most of something that would otherwise be more difficult to handle.
Yeah, and it starts with being aware of things, right? So we both do readings. If you'd like to work with any of us, you can get a reading. And Rox has also taught 2 classes this year. Did you teach 2?
That's true.
And
That's true. That's
you
true.
have them also available for people to watch, right? Still,
One of
one of
them,
them.
one of them. So
Okay.
I taught 2 classes, the natal chart interpretation master class for astrology students and practitioners who want to polish and take their analysis skills to the next level, and the forecasting with transits course. Only the natal chart interpretation masterclass is available to purchase as a recording. The other
Okay.
one, the forecasting with transits, I'm probably going to run it again live next year, hence why I haven't yet put it out there for people to purchase as a recording.
Jupiter in Aries in the house of career.
That's
Look at you
it. That's
go.
it. I've been very productive this year. I'm happy. I'm happy with how
Yeah.
things have turned out.
Do you have, so for 2023, do you have any kind of like, any, I don't know, keywords or kind of main things that you think are ahead of us?
I suppose taking our spiritual practices more seriously with Saturn going into Pisces.
Yeah.
So really kind of like putting effort and committing to a spiritual practice of some sorts. I'm very excited about Jupiter going also into Taurus, just because I feel like everyone right now is a little bit in a state of, I want to say, fear, maybe panic slightly around the economy.
Yeah.
And Jupiter going into Taurus is probably going to be a stabilizing factor to a certain extent. To a certain extent, we're not expecting miracles here,
Right.
but I think these would probably be my keywords: stabilization and taking spirituality more seriously.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot. I agree with you. I think personally, I'm excited to see what Pluto and Aquarius will bring us, even though we have a really quick, is it like 2 months? Oh, 2 months, 2 weeks, or something like that?
I suppose, because Pluto also goes. Pluto is also going to go retrograde, so I think it's going to stay in Aquarius from the 23rd of March, if I'm looking at the ephemeris correctly. Then it slides back into Capricorn on the 11th of June.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to spend a little bit of time in Aquarius, but it's just going to be this taster. It's just going to be this preview. I feel like people may kind of like look at this and expect a lot from this transit, but just because it's not that long to start off with, the things that are happening, maybe what we're going to see in the news and so on, it may not even necessarily feel that impactful to start with, and then for the next 20 years,
Yeah.
that Pluto will spend in Aquarius, it's going to be like, oh, that thing that came up in 2023, I suppose it is a big deal, actually. I suppose it is going to change things by the looks of it.
Right. And even for all of us who have been alive and conscious since 2008, when Pluto entered Capricorn, just looking at that period, right? Like from 2008 until 2022, how has your life changed? Like it wasn't, 2008 wasn't necessarily the moment things started to unravel.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Exactly. So
Yeah.
it's going to take a while for like the collective to kind of like really sink their teeth into everything that Pluto and Aquarius has to bring over for us. I mean, we're already seeing some stuff in the news, such as the microchip from, I don't know, like created by Elon Musk, implanted into our brains. I mean, how sci-fi does that sound?
Right.
Regardless of what we think or feel about Elon Musk, we have to admit it. It's very, this type of news is very Pluto in Aquarius. It's like, okay, this is next level. This is going to transform life and society as we know it, even if initially it's going to be kind of like adopted only by people who kind of like are suffering from certain kind of like challenges, like movements and so on. Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting transit to keep track of. I mean, if we look back at what was going on, what was it, 240 something years ago?
Like Pluto was 1777.
That's right. Until 1797, French Revolution.
Yeah,
I mean, we can definitely confidently say that Pluto in Aquarius is probably going to bring some serious revolutions at a collective level, at a societal level. I mean, if I were to sum up maybe the light kind of like side of Pluto in Aquarius, it would be power to the people, right? That's what we're hoping for. We're hoping that it's going to be beautiful, and a regular average Joe is going to have more say in how their life is unfolding, and more power is going to be taken away from, I don't know, like these institutions that are nameless and faceless, Pluto and Capricorn, and it's going to be passed on to normal people, just like everyone else. Herschel discovered the planet Uranus in 1781. So
that's exciting.
Yeah. During Pluto in Aquarius, definitely like major like transformations that are making their way into society via technology. So of course it's a very Aquarian topic. Aquarius is also linked with science, so scientific breakthroughs very, very likely. But
green energy potentially, right?
Exactly. I mean, Pluto is also connected with like nuclear energy, if I'm not mistaken. So it's going to be interesting to watch what will happen with the atom. So how it's going to be kind of like managed, handled, so that maybe we can switch to green energy and sustainable energy completely, and kind of like walk away from like fossil fuels and stuff like that. I think a lot of countries have this sort of target in the next 20 years, at least here in the UK. There's a target in the next 20 years to kind of like switch completely to electric cars.
Oh.
How Pluto
in the next 20 years.
That's right.
And that's exactly how long Pluto will be in Aquarius, pretty much from 2023 until 2043, right?
That's correct. I think please don't shoot the messenger, because maybe I'm not like explaining the full picture here. I think the target is something along the lines of no more kind of like regular like gas fueled cars are going to be sold as new cars in the next 20 years. So people who already have kind of like gas like fueled cars, they're going to be able to keep them, of course, like no one's going to come and take their cars away, but the objective, the goal is to switch to people buying new cars that are only electric.
That's a really good example of Pluto and Aquarius. Yeah. Thank you for bringing it up. Yeah, like industrial revolution happened last time Pluto was in Aquarius. So similarly to all the things you're describing, right? Except now we might be moving more towards being online, green energy, kind of. Pluto also deals with control always, right? Like Pluto is the planet of power and control. So the chips, I haven't heard of that. So it's so interesting. I'm glad you're bringing the story of like potentially like chips being implanted into us. Yeah.
In our brains. Yeah.
Yeah, like kind of, the question of control, right? Like, is it for our good or is it to control the masses? So Pluto can bring some power to the masses, but it can also make us question how much time we spend online, how much control does technology has over us, and things like that.
That's true. That's true. That's true. And I mean, I suppose maybe like a darker side of like Pluto in Aquarius is just kind of like this obsession with technology and science, because Pluto can be very obsessive. So if something isn't, I don't know, like scientifically like backed or proven, or it might just kind of like be discarded. Let's not forget that Aquarius it's quite a cold sign. So it's like, oh, okay, I'm being very objective and I believe in these principles and I see reality in this way, and everything else that does not fall in line with these like views is just going to be coldly discarded and no one cares.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's still a Saturn ruled sign, right? Like when you're saying it's like a colder winter sign, but like in Capricorn for the last 20 years, the structures in government were just tightening and it was more like traditional. It was looking back at things and kind of ways of governing from the past, but now we might be innovating them. We might be breaking away from things, but because it's still Saturn ruled sign, you need to watch in your personal life and in the world around you to be like too idealistic, right? Or to be like too sure of the things that you believe in, because
that's right.
Aquarius is a fixed sign. So there's still that like fascination with ideas or like fixity of opinions sometimes, right? Do you have any planets early in Aquarius? How are you feeling about Pluto going over them?
It's funny that you ask. I do actually. I have Saturn at 0 degrees of Aquarius, so it's going to be interesting to see what that brings in. Saturn is the ruler of my 8th house and of my 7th house. Pluto has been transiting my 7th house for quite some time, to be fair, and it's going to go over the ruler of my 7th house. So I'm like, okay, more transformation in relationships with others, like more. I've been going through this for the past, like what, since 2008.
Right. So
to a certain degree, I feel like I'm kind of ready and prepared. Pluto went over my moon. That was a fun time. Not. So Pluto going over a peer planet, not a personal planet. I'm like, okay, let's see how maybe the structures of my husband's life will change, because that's also very, very possible.
Right.
7th house.
And it's like you said, since 2008, but also Saturn has been in Aquarius since 2020. So Pluto going in Aquarius is not a brand new, like it's not necessarily going to bring like completely new things into your life. It's something that you have been facing for the last 2 years. Like, where have you been seeking freedom and innovation and breakthroughs? There's going to be an opportunity to take the next 20 years to handle that and like to bring that into existence.
Fun time.
Yeah. Should we talk about Jupiter real quick also?
Let's do it.
So Jupiter is in Aries right now. Like, I mentioned earlier, Jupiter would have been in Aries from May into late October 2022. So we are continuing on the projects that we have incepted at that time, right? Like there's more seeds being planted, there's more excitement, there's more youthful energy, but the year begins slow. So approximately until the 18th or even 22nd, when Uranus also stations direct, and then we have all 10 planets direct, it's like you may have all these ideas bubbling up, but it's not the best time to initiate, I think, right? I hope you'd agree.
I do actually. I do. And especially with Mars being retrograde, which is like where Jupiter is right now in the house of Mars until the 12th of January. Exactly. It's Mars in Gemini. A lot of ideas kind of like popping up, bubbling up, maybe kind of like pulling our mind in all sorts of directions. It's like, I'm curious about this. And I would like, what about this? What about this? And we're also in this state of maybe like wanting to like get things off the ground, but at the same time, after all these planets go direct, so from the 22nd of January onwards, we might look back and say, oh, this wasn't really a good idea. What was I thinking?
Right. Like I fixed my dresser, but maybe I need a new one. So you put a band-aid on things, but it's not necessarily the permanent fix. But Jupiter in Aries is great for being brave, for doing things that you wouldn't do otherwise, right? Things that it's kind of like you're standing at the edge of the pool and Jupiter in Aries comes along and sort of shoves you into the pool. Time for it. Do it. So it's a good time to start things, especially after January 22nd until April 21st. Every planet will be, all 10 planets will be direct. So like the green time on your calendar. But yeah, like being brave, going for things, just do it has been like the Nike, what is it? Slogan, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
right.
it was
Right.
created when Jupiter was in Aries. So it's very much like just do it energy. But you want to prioritize like a couple of things, like 2 projects, let's say 3 projects, right? Don't overextend yourself. Don't say yes to too many things. Because when Jupiter goes into Taurus, May 16th, 2023 until May 2024, we will have to like put some energy in and like elbow grease and keep going on the projects we have started. And Taurus likes to rest, right? Like Taurus likes to chill a little bit. So you don't want
Taurus.
to overload
Ooh.
yourself.
No, Taurus never. I've never seen a Taurus chilling. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
They don't know. Yeah.
Someone is asking if we're talking about a specific sign. We're not yet talking about the signs for 2023. We're going to get to that. We were just kind of like giving a general update for the most significant transits of 2023. And then, yes, if someone is here joining for their 2023 like short horoscope for their sign, we will dive into that. Yeah.
Yeah, probably in like 10 minutes or so, right? Approximately. Yeah.
Approximately.
You want to talk about Saturn and Pisces? What are your thoughts on Saturn and
Yes,
Pisces for the next 3 years?
absolutely. So Saturn's going to go into Pisces on the 7th of March next year until the 14th of February 2026. Throughout this period, it's going to have like a little bit of time when it dips into Aries, but we'll have a couple of years to wait for that.
Mm-hmm.
The last time when Saturn was in Pisces was between the 20th of January 1994 until the 7th of April of 1996. So folks who are listening to us who were born between January 1994 until April of 1996, da-da-da, your Saturn return is coming up.
It's your turn.
Woohoo! I'm done.
You're handling off the flag next.
Yeah. I do believe that it's going to be a time when we are going to see very kind of like concrete, tangible achievements in Piscean areas. So maybe specific kind of like concrete achievements and maybe rules and regulations when it comes to using drugs and medicine more responsibly, maybe bringing kind of like legalizing possibly some drugs that weren't legal beforehand. I know that Saturn in 2025, 2026 is gonna come together with Neptune and Pisces. So we're definitely going to see kind of like a major focus on utilizing responsibly certain drugs that maybe beforehand were kind of like not necessarily very clearly regulated, or maybe they weren't accessible, I would say. Society with Saturn and Pisces is probably going to feel like it has to take responsibility for those who resonate very strongly with the Piscean nature. So maybe people that are suffering, people that have been oppressed, victims of some sort. So it may feel like social responsibility kind of like rises and increases, especially for those who are maybe refugees, let's say, or those who can't like stand up for themselves, defend themselves, those who are maybe not necessarily fully able-bodied. So society has to kind of like step in and say, okay, these are the rules that we are putting into place to prop you up, to offer you that security and that stability. Saturn wants us to take very seriously also spiritual matters, of course. So we're probably going to see maybe more and more people kind of like turning themselves professionally towards maybe areas that have to do with spirituality, healing, working with energies. So really kind of like doing this with seriousness and commitment. So putting effort into this and maybe bringing it into their day-to-day work in some shape or form. I think I think it was Austin Kopok who said this. PlayStation is going to go through its Saturn return with Saturn in Pisces. So I do believe we're going to see some like really cool maybe achievements in the area of games, gaming, entertainment, films, the imagination in general, maybe AI, and so on. A lot of artists have Saturn in Pisces, which is very interesting. I mean, so many of them, like too many to go through right now. Björk, Lenny Kravitz, Keanu Reeves, Justin Bieber.
Oh, wow.
So many of them have Saturn in Pisces. So I feel like collectively there may be this feeling of, okay, we're going to take the art seriously. We're going to take maybe these kind of like areas that are less tangible, more ethereal, harder to kind of like pin down. We're going to commit to them. We're going to like put effort into them. Maybe more people who are going to look to like study or work in these specific fields. I think these are the things that are coming up that are coming to my mind right now with Saturn in Pisces. And let's not forget, Pisces is a sign that vibrates very strongly to the topic of mental health. So we may see the area of mental health being taken more seriously. So new rules, laws, regulations, maybe around employers taking mental health as seriously as physical health. If you are kind of like going through something from a mental health perspective, it may be kind of like by law, your right to, I don't know, take time off or access
better care.
Help.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Health care and so on, which is again definitely something to be excited about and to look forward to, especially since for most of the second part of next year of 2023, Saturn is going to be in a sign-based sextile with Jupiter and Taurus.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got Saturn that is kind of like implementing the rules, and Jupiter that gives us the meaning and sort of like the moral code behind the rules that are being implemented in the 3D material reality. We may see kind of like a stronger connection being made between the physical body, Jupiter and Taurus, and mental health, Saturn and Pisces, which this has been kind of like proven, and there have been studies, but I don't feel like it's yet adopted in terms of mentality and way of operating when we address our health in general, I would say.
Especially things that are not visible, right? Like mental health kind of things. You're walking around, you're smiling, but maybe deep inside, like people are suffering.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we know that's the case. To kind of like go through examples of people who have been going through exactly that situation, because we all read the news. But
Rox, I think your audio cut off for a second.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's a bit delayed, I think. I don't know if it's just me or everyone else is. Can you say something?
No, I think I was getting a call, and maybe that's why I got cut off. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It looks like, I don't know, it looks like your video now is a little bit delayed, but maybe it will catch up, hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, everything you're saying makes like a ton of sense. And it's also because Saturn would have been in Saturn ruled signs, Capricorn and Aquarius, for a really long time. Mm-hmm. And so we dealt with really harsh Saturn, who, you know, with Saturn and Aquarius, right around the time the pandemic started, the regulations tightened around like air and communication and like expressing yourself, and even like air being kind of dangerous and bringing some kind of like, you know, Saturn fears sometimes instigates in us. So there were definitely restrictions around like social aspects. So now with Saturn and Pisces, like you said, we will be looking at mental health and like taking care of the invisible issues. And also Pisces is a water sign, so like dealing with feelings, dealing with our emotions that we may be not addressing. It's a very melancholic Saturn, I think, right? Like, so maybe we will find beauty in sadness. We will find beauty in sacrificing things. That's, I think, also like very much Saturn and Pisces needing to put, your personal goals aside, maybe for the sake of the community, right? Like for the sake of other people. Um, Committing to things. I think, I was actually thinking of that recently. Like Saturn can take things away from you, but sometimes it's really good to give things to Saturn without waiting for Saturn to take things away from you. So wherever Pisces is in your chart, if you can think of things that you are ready to give up, it doesn't have to be a big thing, but like, giving up your Saturday to help someone,
That's
kind of like being more proactive about taking action and working with Saturn, I think could be helpful to a lot of people.
completely agree. Completely agree. I was just thinking, what can I give up? What can I give up? I'm like, I need to sit on this. But
Yeah.
yeah. I think we can elaborate on that when we talk about all 12 signs.
All 12 signs for sure. What's interesting is like the movie that came out during last time Saturn was in Pisces was Shawshank Redemption. And it's like, it's about, serving time for the crime you didn't commit and like needing to redeem for something. So we may kind of have to deal with things like that on a personal level
That's right.
or on a collective level too.
That's right.
Yeah. So Venus and Leo, you want to touch on Venus and Leo, Venus retrograde?
Oh man, Venus is gonna spend so much time in Leo next year. It's
All
gonna
the
be in,
time.
it's gonna be in Leo. Let me just quickly double check. It goes into Leo in June,
Mhm.
and it's gonna stay there until October. So to be very, very precise, it's gonna go into Leo on the 6th of June, all the way until the 9th of October. So
4 months.
great time for folks who have Leo energy in their chart, and also everyone who has fire planets, because that Venus is going to harmoniously aspect planets in your chart in Sagittarius, in Aries. So really something to look forward to. But alas, Venus is also going to go retrograde, which I'm not really like super keen about, because the last time when Venus was retrograde, granted it was in my 7th house, so many arguments, so many kind of like old issues like being like addressed once again. It was not the best of times relationship wise. So Venus is going to be retrograde between the 23rd of July until the 4th of September in Leo. So we're probably going to have to indeed kind of like reevaluate our relationships, which is a very Venus retrograde thing. Definitely not a time to change our looks, not a time to dye our hair a crazy color. I would even not recommend buying new stuff, clothes, anything kind of like any objects that are connected with beauty, arts, and design, because after Venus goes out of retrograde, we could scratch our heads and say, what was I thinking and why did I buy this thing? I don't even like it.
Mm-hmm.
Venus and Leo in particular, I feel it's going to push a lot of people to reevaluate what is fun for them and how they share that with someone else, and also what makes them feel special and celebrated and applauded in relationships or in connection with someone else. And it doesn't just have to be romantic relationships. It could be relationships with colleagues. It could be relationships with coworkers. Venus in Leo wants to feel important. And when it feels important, it kind of like it shines. But Venus retrograde in Leo may feel like she's not receiving enough applause, she's not receiving enough attention, and as a result of that, she may renegotiate some of her relationships, some of her agreements, I would say. Yes, Venus is definitely also connected with self-worth. So we may have some doubts, we may second guess ourselves around our worth wherever Leo is in our natal chart. We may reevaluate what is important to us in those specific areas of life, and we're going to address this for each of the 12 zodiac signs.
That's why you want to be sure that you're not just throwing money at a problem and coloring your hair purple or buying yourself a Lamborghini that you cannot afford or something like that.
Oh, such a good example. I feel like Venus retrograde in Leo might overdo it with the flashiness of I'm important and look at me and give me appreciation for the beautiful things that I've got, but do I really care about them? And secondly, can I afford them?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and it's with all the Pisces, Saturn, Pluto, and Aquarius, all of the collective energy, and maybe like needing to commit to something and put some of your needs on the altar of community, right? Like Venus retrograde may just experience a period of like, well, but what about me, right? Like a lot of times you need to take care of you. You need to make sure that you're happy so that like you can give some of your light and some of your energy to others. So figuring out what makes you happy, what makes you excited, what kind of like Venus and Leo is very childlike, right? It's
Mhm.
kind of like, look, I painted this picture. It's not necessarily great, but it's mine.
That's right.
So like, what is it about you that can like shine, right? While you're helping others. And also like, how can you the best version of yourself? Like, because I was listening to a talk about 2023. I can't remember who was talking. I should like take notes, but they were saying how like, you know, maybe you're good at like a predictive astrology. Maybe I'm good at relationship astrology, right? And like kind of lifting each other up and like making sure you take charge of things that you're good at and trusting that the other person will do the same. And so together we'll be like
Good
good.
team. A
Yeah.
really good team. I love that. I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. I mean, if there was one thing that Venus and Leo likes is kind of like celebrating each other, celebrating partnerships, celebrating relationships, and just kind of like being cheerleaders for each other. And with Venus retrograde, we may realize that maybe we haven't been doing that enough for others, or whoever was supposed to do that for us. It's like, hello, I need that.
Right.
Can I get some of those compliments? Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. Yeah. Every day. You gave me a compliment 2 days ago. What about today?
Fair, fair,
Yeah.
fair.
Asking for it. Anything else about 2023, or should we dive into horoscopes?
I think there's one more thing that I would flag. The nodal axis.
Oh,
The
yes.
nodal
Yeah.
axis shifting
Big
into
deal.
big, massive, massive,
Yeah.
massive deal, shifting into Aries and Libra. So we're still going to have eclipses on the Taurus Scorpio axis, one in May and one in October. But in July, on the 18th of July, the nodal axis, the north node, is going to slide into Aries, and the south node is going to slide into Libra. This is going to be huge for the collective. The north node is connected with growth, expansion, increase, and it's kind of like our north star somehow. It shows the direction in which we're headed collectively. The south node shows where we're leaving something behind, releasing. It's kind of like an area of surrender, of letting go, of leakage. I was actually reading one of Judith Hill's books on medical astrology, and she was saying for doctors, for physicians, pay a lot of attention to the sign that the south node is transiting. So in this case, it's going to be south node in Libra, because you might see an increase in health-related issues connected with that specific sign. So south node in Libra,
Kidneys.
correct,
Yeah.
increase in like issues around kidneys, around maybe like balance in the body in some shape or form, and kind of like an expansion of Aries topics at a collective level. It's gonna be it's gonna be whew, it's gonna be interesting to see how the north node in Aries is going to mesh up with Saturn in Pisces and Pluto in Aquarius, because as you flagged beforehand, Saturn in Pisces cares a lot and feels very responsible and feels a sense of duty towards the collective, towards those that can't help themselves, maybe towards those that are suffering. Pluto in Aquarius is like power to the people, to the masses. And then the north node in Aries says, no, 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 no. I am me, and I'm the most important person, and I'm going to do what I want, and I stand on my own 2 feet, and I'm going to assert myself, and I'm going to take my own side, and I don't care about compromise. An increase in individualistic tendencies, I would say, with the north node in Aries. Maybe the lighter and more positive expression and more beneficial expression of the north node in Aries could be a significant increase in entrepreneurship, so in people doing their own thing.
Yeah.
Which could combine very nicely with Pluto in Aquarius for the next kind of like few decades, just because Pluto in Aquarius becomes quite quite kind of like obsessed with the idea of freedom and not being bogged down by institutions and external entities. And the North Node in Aries is going to say, okay, I'm just going to do my own thing. Goodbye. Get out of my way. I don't care if you join me. I've got a target and I'm going for it. At the same time, the South Node in Libra, well, I'll put it out there. So many relationships are probably going to be undone with the South Node in Libra. We may realize that we've been making compromises that are no longer serving us. We've been entertaining connections, partnerships, and relationships that are not going anywhere. On the contrary, they're holding us back. No more Mr. Nice Guy. No more Mrs. like, I don't know, like Miss Good Girl. I'd say. I think that's going to die a very rapid death with the North Node transiting Aries and the South Node in Libra.
Yeah.
There could be an increase. I'll put it out there so at a collective level for countries, in everyone kind of like fending for themselves. And maybe alliances being broken. Let's not forget that Libra resonates very strongly with politics and politicians. So many kind of like diplomatic ties are probably going to be like, okay, goodbye, out the door.
Yeah.
But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. We are completing a cycle of Venus and Mars eclipses, right? Like we have been the Taurus Scorpio cycle, but this in the last, starting in 2022 until the middle of 2023, eclipses. So South Node would have been in the Mars ruled sign and North Node would have been in the Venus ruled sign. So we would have prioritized more kind of like peacemaking, stability, loyalty, right? All of that kind of stuff. And now, and another difference too is that those were fixed signs. So the changes, they weren't as open to change, right? Like the changes that eclipses brought in were more slower. Maybe we were not as excited about them. We were kind of like, what's the word? Like resisting them, right? Now, what's interesting is like the shift happens in July, but the first eclipse we get is in late April. So we have the eclipse in Aries on April 20th. And that's like the very last degree of Aries. So you may experience like really major, quick, sudden change because it's a cardinal sign. It's the first sign. It's like the kind of, the initial fire. So here we might experience kind of dramatic upheavals, ups and downs. And like, the change, so we're still dealing with Mars Venus dynamic. It's still kind of like, are you my lover? Are we fighting? Kind of like, how can you keep asserting yourself? How can you stay independent and stay self-reliant while being in a relationship? I'm born with these notes, so I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see what that's gonna be like. But yeah, like if you were born in 86, 87, you will have your nodal return, which happens approximately every like 18 years.
Yeah.
And yeah, like if you were born with South Node in Libra, you may be a people pleaser. You may focus on other people a bit much, give a bit much of yourself. So with this dynamic, examining relationships, being healthy, like kind of making healthy choices in relationships, choosing your independence. And what you said, I was also thinking like, hopefully there's a good way to balance the Aquarius and Pisces energy with Aries. Maybe people are initiating things that are good for others. Maybe they're fighting and being competitive in some kind of like future oriented green project, right? Like maybe UK says we're going to get rid of cars in 5 years. Not realistic probably, but possible.
It's possible.
Yeah, a couple of people bought badges. Thank you guys for buying badges and supporting us through that. I didn't even know that they're still turned on. I don't think I turned them on, but it's good they're working.
They're working.
Yeah. So eclipses will be interesting.
Yeah, I suppose they will. I would pay attention to the first eclipse, like you said, Anastasia, in Aries on the 20th of April, and then maybe from the 18th until the end of July, we may see a continuation as the nodes move into Aries Libra. We may see a continuation of the themes that come up first time in our life at the end. So in April, at the first eclipse in Aries. Exciting.
I feel ready to start the horoscopes. What about you?
Let's do this.
Let's do this. And so you're going to start with Aries.
That's right. That's right. We're going to take turn, folks, in case you're wondering what on earth is happening. What on earth is happening here?
Yeah.
So I'm going to be doing 6 signs, and Anastasia is going to be doing 6 signs. Aries suns and Aries risings. What is going on in 2023? Well, Saturn is going to enter your 12th house on the 7th of March. This is going to be a long transit. For you, Aries, Saturn is the ruler of your 10th house and of your 11th house. You're probably going to go through a period of roughly 3 years, Aries, in which you are ready to close up, to let go and to surrender of some of the structures that you have built professionally in your life, and maybe also to see the end of some of the goals that you have set for yourselves, my dear Aries. Probably some friendships are going to come to an end, to a natural end, while Saturn is transiting your 12th house. And you're probably also going to take an increased amount of responsibility for your mental health. Why? Because it's time. That's what Saturn, Father Time, is saying. Now, Pluto enters Aquarius in your 11th house of goals and friendships on the 23rd of March until the 11th of June. It's giving you a little bit of a taster of what the next 2 decades will look like in terms of transforming your goals for the future, in terms of transforming your attitude towards friendship, towards your tribe, towards who your people are. Pluto may also kind of like give that tremendous, like intense focus on specific goals, and there's also a possibility that you may experience some interesting dynamics in terms of power with the groups of people in your life. So for instance, if you're a part of like a professional organization, as Pluto goes into Aquarius, you may revisit that. Or on the contrary, you may kind of like push yourself to grab power and step up to maybe a position of leadership within that organization. Jupiter, the great benefic, is transiting your 1st house of identity and new beginnings until the 16th of May, and then it moves into Taurus in your 2nd house of income. Now, let's put it this way, Aries, I'm very excited because you seem to be on a path of growth and personal expansion and personal development until the middle of May. You might be feeling even more courageous than usual, if that's even possible. I don't know if that's possible. And then middle of May until May of 2024, as Jupiter moves into your 2nd house of income, this may feel like a great time, a very auspicious period of time to increase your income, to bring into your life new sources of income, to take a leap of faith in terms of maybe asking for a raise, in terms of going for a different job that will pay more, and also in terms of really monetizing some of the more theoretical and abstract knowledge that you have acquired since 2022. Venus is going to be retrograde. Venus is the ruler of your 7th house of relationships and of your 2nd house of income. From the 23rd of July until the 4th of September, I would be very careful throughout this period, my dear Aries, what you spend your money on. Because at the end of the retrograde, you might look back and say, I think I overspent on the fun stuff, or I think I overspent on these dates that I wanted to impress. So maybe that's something to keep an eye on. Definitely, because the retrograde is happening in your 5th house of romantic love, watch out for the exes coming back into your life, or maybe for a little bit of, how should we say, reevaluation of what's important for you romantically. I wouldn't necessarily recommend taking any major steps in terms of terminating or initiating new romantic connections. I would kind of like bide my time if that's possible. And last but not least, the nodal axis is shifting from your 2nd house, 8th house axis, so the financial axis for you Aries. It's shifting to your identity / relationship axis from the 18th of July until the 11th of January of 2025. This is a 1.5 year long period in which you're probably going to feel like you are maybe taking some of the focus that you had on some relationships, on some partnerships, and redirecting that towards yourself. So you might feel like, okay, who am I? What's important to me? I need to focus on growing into the best version of myself. Maybe I've been spending too much time trying to manage a significant relationship, trying to maybe manage where a partnership is headed. I wouldn't be surprised also, Aries, especially Aries risings, if some of you decided until January of 2025 to wrap up some significant partnerships, be them romantic or business-wise. Very, very possible. And that is 2023 for Aries.
Yeah, it makes sense with Venus being retrograde in the fifth house of romance, right? And the nodes being in the first and seventh. Yeah, yeah. So Taurus, I feel like I wanted to say something for Aries, but I forgot. I have a friend who's an Aries rising, and she's been like becoming more politically aware. So maybe sometimes for some of you guys with like Pluto in the 11th house being more taking on the role of like the leader when it comes to society community, like Rux said. So for Taurus rising, oh, someone asked whether we're doing rising sign or sun sign. Rising sign is priority for both of us, I think. But if you wanted to listen for your sun or your moon sign, you could do that too. Yeah. So Taurus rising, I sort of wrote like a short write-up, which I think was like the priority is to take a close look at your friendships, your allies, and group you associate with as you move towards more professional success, influence, and power. And so with Jupiter being starting the year in your 12th house until May 16th, you may be needing to release something. At first, you're sort of looking at what has been holding you back. What do you need to let go of? Where are you not being brave enough, let's say, because Jupiter and Aries is all about bravery and taking risks. You may be becoming more interested in spirituality, yoga, and travel. Maybe becoming more creative, maybe needing to take, charge of your creativity, because the major thing I think for Taurus risings, especially next year, is Jupiter entering Taurus. So what is it, May 16th until May 16th, 2023 until like May 20th or something, 2024.
Let me check actually, because I don't have the exact date, and I feel like this is important with Mercury retrograde that we give exact dates to people.
Yeah, if you can.
Until the 25th of May of 2024.
So yeah, until the 25th of May 2024, Jupiter will be in your first house. And Jupiter in the first house is the time of a lot of blessings, right? Like you may be needing to balance things and try to take it easy a little bit, as Jupiter and Taurus might encourage you to do, but also taking kind of, it's interesting. Like, I feel like if you do a good job of like taking care of your mental health and resting and maybe releasing bad habits, Jupiter and Taurus can be the time when you're like laying on a beach, showing off your sexy body to the rest of the world that you worked on. So make sure you're like focusing on spiritual things, having, good balance between resting and taking action in the beginning of the year so that you can pursue things with more balance and ease later on. But Jupiter being in your first house is very beneficial, I think, for like building yourself, for starting new personal projects, for redefining who you are, and also getting recognized for who you are, getting recognized for your values, getting paid more, maybe becoming a teacher. Jupiter in the first house can always be that. Watch out for overindulging, because Taurus first house, gaining weight for Taurus risings could be danger here. Saturn goes into your 11th house on March 7th for approximately the next like 2.5 years. Saturn in the 11th is the time you've been focusing so much, Taurus risings, on working. Like there's been Saturn in the 10th, a lot of changes professionally. Some people have started a business. Some people have, went back to school. So with Saturn in the 11th for the next 3 years, you will need to look at who's in your corner. What kind of people are supporting you? If you started a business, do you have a good network? Do you need to build connections? Do you need to kind of, take stock of people in your life? For sometimes this means ending friendships and saying goodbye to certain people who are not supportive of you, or maybe you're just going back to school and you're meeting a whole bunch of new people. Pluto enters Aquarius, giving us a taste test of what's to come on March 23rd.
That's
Is it?
right.
March
That's right.
23rd. Thank you. Thank you for having all the dates on hand. So only a brief approximately 2.5 months stint of Pluto in Aquarius, but Pluto in Aquarius will be your 10th house. So this is about professional reinvention, maybe slow path, planting seeds
Mhm.
towards like fame, visibility, recognition are possibilities here. Bringing more kind of green energy technology to your career, taking maybe control of how you're seen in public eye could be here as well. And also, kind of gaining more clarity about your future steps. The nodes are going to shift into Aries and Libra, highlighting your 12th house and 6th house. And from what I've seen in people's lives who have dealt with this with Taurus and Scorpio, this could be with the South Node in the 6th house, this could be about like letting go of the way you do everyday life. Like maybe you used to work 5 days a week, 9 to 5, but you start to change it because your North Node in Aries will encourage you to prioritize rest
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
kind of mental health and better well-being. So that's what I think that's what this energy with Jupiter and Aries could also be about. It's like learning to choose, I don't know, making better choices for yourself and letting go of crazy heavy workload so that you can be more in charge but work a little less. And finally, Venus will be retrograde in your 4th house from July 22nd until September 3rd. This is Eastern times, making you rethink where you live potentially. Maybe you feel like your place of living, your home, your house even is not allowing for your plans for the future. And so you'll need to redefine what makes you feel happy. Also redefine whether you feel supported emotionally and spiritually in your plans. Maybe put some boundaries, change boundaries in familial relationships. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I love that. I was just about to add, because for Taurus risings, the South Node is going to transit their 6th house. When this happened for me, when the South Node was transiting my 6th house, I basically finally gave up on my day job and I committed to astrology full time. So I've released an area of work. So that could happen to you as well, Taurus
Yeah.
rising.
And North Node in your 12th house, you went towards
The
spiritual
spiritual,
things. You went towards
exactly.
astrology. Yeah.
Exactly. So an increase on the amount of time that I spent on spiritual topics. Gemini risings in particular, but also Gemini suns and Gemini moons, especially if you have a night chart. Saturn has some work for you, Geminis, from the 7th of March until February of 2020, February of 2026. Increased duties and responsibilities professionally. Some of you may step into a role of management, position of management, higher up position where you have more responsibility, more decision-making power, but there's also significantly more pressure on your shoulders. It can be a time of culmination for you career-wise. It can be a time when you finally see the results of maybe the work that you've been doing professionally over the past 7 or maybe even 14 years. Some Geminis may also, especially if you feel like you're not looking to build a career in the direction that you have been going up until this point, while Saturn is transiting your 10th house of career, you may actually decide all the way until 2026, you may decide to change industries, which is a possibility because sometimes Saturn says, okay, enough, you're done here, something else, refocus and restructure. Pluto is going to enter Aquarius, Geminis, in your 9th house on the 23rd of March until the 11th of June. And then it's going to slide back into Capricorn in your 8th house. So as Pluto goes into Aquarius, it's going to give you a little bit of a taster for the next 2 decades in terms of how your belief systems, how your personal life philosophy, how your connection with the divine is likely to change and shift radically. So it's likely to go through this sort of like death and rebirth. maybe next year it's not going to feel that intense unless you have personal planets around 0 degrees of fixed signs, so Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, and Scorpio. But I would kind of like watch out, Geminis, what sort of like new spiritual paths, new beliefs, new philosophies, new maybe political affiliations you're drawn to, because they are likely to play an important role in your life, maybe more important than you imagine, for the next 2 decades. Jupiter is going to transit your 11th house of goals and friends until the middle of May. So definitely I see a sense of kind of like growth and expansion and opportunity and optimism through the groups of people that you are affiliated with. If you have an audience in any shape or form, maybe you're a teacher, maybe you're a coach, maybe you're a content creator, that audience is likely to grow and to expand. I would also be on the lookout for opportunities making their way to you from friends and from your tribe. And then Gemini's Jupiter is going to enter your 12th house, middle of May of next year, of 2023, until the last week of May of 2024. Jupiter for you is the ruler of your 10th house of career and of your 7th house of relationships. You may reevaluate in private your connection with specific partners, business partners in particular, and maybe also your relationship with a certain industry or with a certain company that you are affiliated with, that you're working for. Jupiter transiting the 12th house is a great time to focus on spiritual activities, to focus on improving your mental health, to focus on maybe allocating time to activities that connect the body, mind, and spirit, for instance, yoga. It is generally a fabulous time to take time off, Jupiter transiting the 12th house. If there was ever a time
A year.
I'm like, yeah, just take a year off, just take a sabbatical, Geminis. If you can, that would be awesome.
So good, yeah.
And it may feel very rejuvenating and very kind of like grounding to commit in private to maybe some sort of a spiritual practice that also brings in the 5 physical senses. It's a very Taurian thing to do. You may also feel very charitable throughout this period, so you may feel like it's important for you to share some of the bounty that you have accumulated, some of the money, assets, resources that you have accumulated. Something else that is happening for you, Geminis, next year, Venus is going to be retrograde 23rd of July until the 4th of September in Leo, in your 3rd house of communication. Venus is the ruler of your 12th house and of your 5th house of enjoyment. So this is an interesting time. You may reconnect with people from your past, people that maybe you have been romantically involved with, or people who you have worked on together with them on creative projects, on maybe passion projects. You may also feel inspired to maybe retake a course or a class or reread some old books, some old material around topics that you're passionate about, and maybe also around mental health, around spiritual topics of some shape or form. There is a chance that you might encounter some challenges in communication with women. Just putting it out there. Venus is, after all, quite a feminine energy, so don't take things personally and make sure that you have understood the message correctly. And if you are going to the spa to get facials or treatments, I would really triple check that whoever is giving you those treatments has understood exactly what you want correctly. The nodal axis in 2023, Geminis, is shifting from Taurus, Scorpio to Aries, Libra. Aries, Libra is for you the 11th house, 5th house axis. So from the 18th of July until the 11th of January of 2025, you may feel very focused and committed on your long-term goals and plans for the future. You may invest a lot of energy, time into collaboration with certain groups of people in your life, on group projects. It may also feel at the same time like you are putting on the back burner and maybe even kind of like letting go of some of the old passions, hobbies, activities that used to bring you a sense of enjoyment, a sense of pleasure, a sense of fulfillment. You may actually notice that some of the things that used to make you really kind of like excited, maybe games, maybe, connecting with certain individuals, they no longer cut it for you. They are no longer as fulfilling as they used to be. And especially for Geminis who have kids, there may be this sense of, okay, my attention is being pulled away from kids because now maybe they're grown up or they are well on their path of doing their thing and so on. So I can now focus for the next year and a half.
Who am I?
On my goals.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. That's it. That's it.
Yeah, I have a friend who's a Gemini rising. She's trying to switch careers and become, with Pluto in the ninth. Saturn has been in Aquarius. She's trying to become like a writer, you know, kind of a teacher, bring some of your knowledge. So it feels like that could be a part of kind of what's your next chapter of life will be like.
That's right. That's right. That's
for
right.
Geminis. Cancer risings and suns and moons, but mainly Cancer risings. So Saturn is entering your ninth house for the next 3 years, starting March 7th. Saturn is always putting some pressure on you, so you may feel a sense of pressure to upgrade your education, right? For some of you, maybe you will start the 3-year program that is you know, crucial for your career, with Jupiter being in your house of career as well, kind of like highlighting in the beginning of the year, encouraging you, lighting the fire under your butt, kind of, you know, calling you to do more, take more, reach farther. So Saturn in the ninth house can create pressure around learning. Travel might become a little bit more of like a hassle, or, you know, you need to be careful. Like, I mean, maybe it's not necessarily you're not going to travel, but it's like, it's going to be more of a burden. Like, you'll need to apply for visas, get like paperwork done. There might be more complications there. There might be certain legal matters that you're handling. Yeah, like more trips for work, just kind of, and also like committing to something that takes a long time that involves writing or learning or teaching. So maybe will bring us a 3-year-long course or something in astrology.
Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, as a Cancer rising.
Not planning that, but once Saturn goes in, I don't know. I'll keep you posted.
Mercury's retrograde. You don't know yet. You know, wait for it to go direct.
Exactly.
So yeah, so it's not like it's not the worst placement. It's just a placement of like, you need to make a commitment. You need to devote part of your time to either upgrading your knowledge or sharing some of your insights with other people. Jupiter in Aries from December 20th until May 16th. There's going to be a solar eclipse in Aries in your house of career on April 20th. So some kind of, and that is a part of the nodes switching signs, right? Like going into South Node in Libra, North Node in Aries, your 4th and 10th houses. Some kind of major new beginning professionally, exciting energy, opportunities, new things, with the South Node being in Libra starting July, but also kind of, yeah, like starting July, the nodes will switch. You may need to rethink your place of living, potentially. There might be changes. There might be certain things you are letting go of. Spend a lot of time with family, kind of connect with them, make sure you're not just focusing on work, that you're also having like a good, it's all about, you know, it's Aries, North Node is in Aries, but Libra is about balance. You don't want to just like overload yourself in terms of one thing. Try to have a healthy balance. Jupiter goes into Taurus on May 16th until May 25th, right? 25th, 2024. And you get a year of Jupiter in the house Jupiter rejoices in. So piggybacking on what you said, if you have a following, this could be the time to grow your following. I have seen someone who's a Gemini rising with Jupiter being in Aries. She like literally in front of my eyes went from 2,000 followers to like 107,000 on Instagram. So Jupiter definitely like blessed her. So for Cancer risings, followers, fans, networks, if you need a connection, reach out to a friend who knows a friend who knows a friend. You never know who can bring you that, you know, that contact you need. Could be a great time to get involved with the community, to expand your vision somehow, to take on, or maybe, you know, keep on working on the things you started in the end of the year, in the beginning of the year. But like look for new ways of doing them. Maybe look for ways to be more creative professionally. Definitely great time to work with others. Definitely great time to connect with friends and maybe start a project with a friend, start like a podcast or some kind of group initiative. Sometimes 11th house is also connected to older siblings. So maybe older siblings can be crucial to your success as well. And you may experience this could be a year of more, you know, recognition for the hard work you've been doing, because Cancers work hard, I think, with a Capricorn being your descendant and sign part of Cancer rising energy that is not always seen. Like they have Capricorn on the descendant, they work really hard. Pluto enters Aquarius, your eighth house, in late March, and we'll do a quick kind of April, May, yeah, like 2.5 months stint in Aquarius, introducing new topics, not necessarily completely bringing major change, but you can expect as well, you know, as well as joint, once again, kind of joint projects with other people, some kind of big ventures when it comes to benefiting through others. Your partner might undergo a change, their career might be changing. Inheritance, debts, taxes, anything like that could be a point of focus and definitely need your attention. And Venus will be retrograding in your second house. So second house is the place of money and values. So questioning whether you feel valued, whether you're, you know, what are you spending money on, needing to be more thoughtful with finances. There may be a sense of like needing to ask for what you deserve, and you know, maybe ask for things that kind of correspond to your desires. Be careful spending money around this time, right? As it's like your second house. If you're a Cancer rising, you might have quite expensive tastes, all other placements aside. So be careful that you're not just like trying to spend money on things to comfort yourself. Kind of look within, see what's, you know, what kind of do you feel. And this is July 22nd until September 3rd. I don't think I said the dates. Kind of like, yeah, like focus on increasing your self-esteem through honest conversations and building up your confidence versus just spending money on things. Cancer rising, do you have anything to add to it?
I'm excited about Jupiter in my 11th house. Definitely some good times with friends, some expansion on that front. Already when you were talking about like Saturn transiting the 9th house, I'm like, yeah, I bet I'm just gonna travel for like business and work. I think it's gonna go from like pleasure to like business and work related purposes. It's gonna be interesting to see how the South Node transiting my 4th house of home is going to play out, because literally this year we just moved into a new house. I'm like, okay, let's see.
I've seen, you know, like in the past from looking at clients, sometimes like family member may need your attention, or there might be like certain things, maybe parents are going through some kind of like losses or challenges that you need to redirect some of your energy towards. Hopefully it's nothing like, it's nothing terrible, but just like they need you, and you may need to like let something go or step up in a different way for them.
That's very, very possible. Yeah. Now that you mention it, it could be something on that front.
Yeah.
Well, we talk about Leos.
Yeah.
Leo suns and Leo risings and Leo moons, especially if you have a night chart, but I'm Leo risings in particular. Saturn, the ruler of your 7th house of relationships, is moving into Pisces in your 8th house on the 7th of March for 3 years.
Leaving
looks like
the 7th house, I'm sure a lot of Leo risings will be happy to say goodbye to Saturn in the 7th. Sorry.
Oh, like so many Leo risings that I've worked with. They have just flagged that there's been like such like significant challenges and a feeling of being blocked and stagnant and not going anywhere relationship wise, and also a feeling like people are very cold with them, which is such a Saturnian topic. So definitely good news. Saturn is no longer going to be opposing you directly, Leo risings, but with Saturn moving into the 8th house, you're going to have to like really commit to taking responsibility for 8th house topics, such as shared assets, shared resources. Maybe there's going to be a feeling of increased burden in your life because of something that has to do with your partner's resources, with your partner's assets. Let's say maybe, I don't know, your partner decides to like switch jobs, or maybe you're going to have a partner that gets pregnant. So you may have to shoulder some extra responsibilities financially on their behalf. You're probably going to have to take very, very seriously the area of debts, taxes, insurance, inheritance, and so on. And maybe there's going to be a sense of, oh, I got to work really hard to like see this thing and through until the very, very end. I've been having Saturn transiting my 8th house since the end of 2020, and I can tell you from my experience that this transit has manifested in like me and my husband basically taking out a huge mortgage. So responsibility connected with other people's money, in this case the bank's money,
Yeah.
to be more specific. Also, Saturn transiting the 8th house, especially for those of you who are in a relationship, may result in your partner having to deal with some massive expenses, some significant expenses. So if you could give them kind of like a nudge, Leo risings, and say, you'd better be a little bit more careful with those purchases, just because next year you may have to reevaluate your budget. That could be a good idea. Pluto enters your 7th house in Aquarius, so your house of relationships that has been like really the area of focus for Saturn in the past 2.5 years to 3 years. Now, unless you have planets or angles around 0 degrees of fixed signs, so Leo, Aquarius, Scorpio, Taurus, you may not necessarily feel this transit straight away. Generally, over the next couple of decades, your attitude towards relationships is likely to change. You may undergo significant kind of like transformations in terms of power dynamics in relationships, a feeling of kind of like death and rebirth in terms of how you connect and relate to others. Jupiter is transiting your 9th house until the 16th of May. So definitely lots of opportunities to travel, especially long distance, to learn maybe topics that are connected with the big picture of life. So religion, spirituality, politics, or even the academic environment. There could be opportunities to join an exciting academic program. So maybe some Leo risings are going to continue their studies and sign up for like a master's or a PhD or something in that direction. Then Jupiter is going to enter from the middle of May of next year, Leos, until the last week of May of 2024. Jupiter is going to enter your 10th house of career. Now, for you, Jupiter is the ruler of your 5th house and of your 8th house. Oh, this is going to be a beautiful time, Leo risings, for you career-wise. New exciting opportunities, new kind of like ventures career-wise, maybe an opportunity to step up, to get a promotion, to grab that sort of like shiny new title. Even if the thing with Jupiter is many times we may feel like, oh, I'm not really like experienced in this. Like I don't really have a lot of knowledge in this. So it may feel like you're stretching yourself professionally. But that's the point. That's what Jupiter wants. It wants us to stretch ourselves. So if you don't take a shot, then how can you grow? A great period for growth career-wise, essentially. And you're probably going to see that in terms of finances as well, because Jupiter in Taurus does like its money. So it's not just going to be the shiny status and the new job title. It's probably going to come up with a significant raise.
Good point.
Venus is going to be retrograde 23rd of July until the 3rd, 4th of September, depending on where you live in the world. So you can adjust that to your own kind of like time zone. Venus is retrograde in your 1st house. Now, Venus for you, my dear Leos, especially Leo risings, is the ruler of your 10th house of career and of your 3rd house of communication. So as Venus is retrograde, you may want to kind of like reevaluate what's important for you professionally. So what really matters the most to you, and maybe realize that some of the values that you had associated with your professional life are no longer that important, or maybe there's kind of like new things that matter more to you professionally than what you placed a lot of emphasis in the past on. I would also be very careful what I sign in terms of contracts, because let's not forget Venus is also connected with the contracts, because you enter into a partnership. I would be careful what you sign in terms of contracts with Venus retrograde professionally, because you may kind of like end up with more than you initially signed up for. So Jupiter being in Taurus, Venus being retrograde in Leo, you might be like very kind of like excited and say yes, 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 yes. And once Venus is out of retrograde, you might say, oh, wow, how am I going to make all of this happen? This is a lot more than I initially thought it would be. So there's definitely kind of like potential for excess in terms of signing up for more than you can actually carry professionally. Really, I would not, I repeat, especially with Venus retrograde in the first house, I would not get that new fringe. I would not cut that hair. I would not go for that aesthetic surgery. Definitely a huge no with Venus retrograde in your first house of the physical body. It might seem like a good idea at the time, but as the retrograde comes to an end, you might not like the result. So watch out for that. And the nodal axis shifts into your Aries Libra, which is the axis of learning and traveling for you, my dear Leos, from the 18th of July until the 11th of January 2025. An increase in your focus on big picture topics. So maybe on your connection with the divine, on your spiritual beliefs, on your belief system, and less focus on maybe a certain kind of like, let's say, more day-to-day mundane area of interest. I do believe that if you're going to start to learn something, it's probably going to be a big thing, not necessarily just kind of like a new skill to apply in your day-to-day work, but rather you might sign up for your PhD, for instance, or you might sign up for like an astrology course, which is kind of like a very ninth house thing. Less traveling short distance and more traveling long distance, more appeal in terms of traveling to foreign lands and foreign countries with the North Node in the ninth house. And that is Leo.
Yeah, relocating. When I had North Node in my ninth house, I became an American citizen, like kind of major changes when it comes to where you live.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go. Beautiful.
A Leo rising also commented, Saturn is moving into my eighth house, taking out large loans for grad school, and my partner is thinking of starting a business. Here you go, financial responsibilities.
That's what we're talking about.
People asking if you can watch this later, we will save this, and it's likely going to be on YouTube as well. So if Mercury allows us.
Let's pray.
Mercury. Yes. Virgo rising. For Virgo rising, you can listen for your sun and for your moon. Saturn will enter your seventh house for the next 3 years. So you can ask Leo risings, how has it been? You can share, swap stories, exchange notes. Starts March 7th, lasts approximately 3 years. Saturn in the seventh. Saturn always brings pressures, responsibilities, makes you sacrifice some things, right? So if you're a Virgo rising, Saturn being in your seventh house for the next 3 years may make you take responsibility for your partner. If you are in a relationship, maybe the partner is, what's interesting is like in astrology, it's not always about you, right? Like we have houses that represent other people, like fourth house could be about your parents, seventh house could be about your relationship. So maybe a partner is struggling, so you need to take some kind of responsibility, step up. It could be a positive thing, right? Some people with Saturn in the seventh house make commitments and get married.
I got married.
You got married?
With Saturn transiting my seventh house. That's right.
Okay. Makes sense. Yeah, because Saturn makes you say no to something, right? But like getting married is saying no to being single, is saying no to being able to do whatever you want to do.
Everyone else other than your partner.
Yeah. If you're single and you're not in a relationship, there might be pressures around business because seventh house represents business. Dealing with other people, signing contracts, you may be sort of tied to other people somehow. I think it's somewhat similar to Leo risings because Saturn in the eighth, Saturn in the seventh deals with other people's resources. So needing to make choices more responsibly, right? Like needing to let go of connections, one-on-one relationships. Maybe you're not married, but you're married to your boss and you have like a work wife relationship, something like that. So you will need to be more like responsible or make like a long-term commitment. If it's not a romantic commitment to a business partner, or even starting a business could be here as well. Jupiter is in Aries right now and will stay in Aries, your eighth house, until May 16th. There's going to be a solar eclipse in Aries on April 20th, and the nodes will switch signs. So a lot of focus on the eighth house, which is still partnerships, it's still resources of other people, it's joining forces with other people, it's healing. So there could be a sense with the eighth house of transforming. I wonder too, with like Saturn being in your seventh, Jupiter being in your eighth, maybe your view of relationships is changing. Maybe you thought you wanted one and needed one, but now you realize that you can be powerfully happy single, right? Like maybe you don't need a relationship. So Jupiter in the eighth until May 16th can definitely bring some kind of insights about relationships. If you are in a partnership, it can help your partner. Maybe partner's finances improve. They kind of take on a new job, start a business, take a risk. You may be getting debts forgiven or paying off debts. There might be some kind of positive energy when it comes to resources of other people coming to you. From May 16th until May 25th, 2024, Jupiter, finally, I remember it now. Jupiter will be in your ninth house, in Taurus. So this to me feels like, whatever projects you have started, potentially with someone else, if it's a business, working on your business, working on a partnership, and perhaps expanding it. Ninth house is the place in which you need to learn something, you need to travel, you need to write more, right? So there might be, with Jupiter in your ninth house, there might be opportunities to bring your message out there through the means of travel, through the means of education, teaching, anything like that. Definitely growth. Pluto enters Aquarius, your sixth house, in late March and will stay there until June 11th, I believe. So Pluto in the sixth house will give you a taste test of the next 20 years of changes to your daily life, routines, health matters. This doesn't need to be like a scary thing. If you're a Virgo rising, don't get like, oh my God, Pluto in my house of health, what is that going to be? But it is likely that you may change how you do things, right? Maybe you become a vegetarian. Maybe if you do start a business, maybe your daily life just significantly transforms. Sixth house deals with serving others. It deals with giving your energy to people who are poor or somehow unfortunate. So maybe you're giving some of your time to those people and, becoming more interested and more involved in the areas of health and self-improvement. So part of your growth and changes can be connected to helping other people transform their lives and bring kind of healing into their lives. Venus will be retrograde in Leo, your 12th house, from July 22nd until September 3rd. Venus retrograde in Leo in the 12th could make you feel kind of insecure, uncertain of yourself, uncertain of what makes you happy. There might be certain past problems coming back and past partners, right? Like 12th house is very much how you defeat yourself. So here you may be needing to examine, like, do you like drama a bit much? Do you make wrong decisions? Do you choose people who need saving? So sort of like needing to take a step back, avoid dating, avoid like getting involved with anyone around this time. I would try to, if you were in an existing relationship, maybe take a trip together and spend some time in solitude, connecting with each other, because 12th house deals with foreign lands sometimes. But yeah, like taking a look at how your romantic tendencies maybe are defeating and, what can be improved. And with, as far as the nodes, I have mentioned, so we do have an eclipse in Aries. The nodes switch signs and go into Aries and Libra in July. But the first eclipse we get in Aries is in April. So you may start feeling this energy from April into, until the end of 2023. I think it goes into 2024, right? Early 2024.
The nodes are going to be in Aries, Libra until January of 2025, actually.
Oh, 2025.
That's right.
Yes,
That's right.
all of these 20 somethings. So many of them.
I know.
But you get North Node in your 8th house, South Node in your 2nd house. This is interesting. It's kind of like the focus, financial focus goes towards working with other people and maybe relying on other people or supporting other people somehow. So you may get opportunities to collaborate with other people, sign contracts. Maybe you have to rely on your partner for support, or you have to kind of let someone else give their resources to you. So you may, it's still Aries, so you're finding your independence, but you're finding independence through letting other people in.
That's
At the
right.
same time, with South Node in your second house, you may experience some kind of losses when it comes to personal finances, or just have to like release a source of income, deal with some kind of uncertainty when it comes to your financial matters. And, you know, self-worth is connected to that too. Like knowing that saying yes to a helping hand is not a bad thing, you know, like it's good to let people support you perhaps. Okay, I think that's it for
I think
Virgo rising.
that's it for Virgo
Yeah.
risings. I was actually thinking, my mom currently has the transiting North Node moving through the eighth house, and she's taken on a loan. So it could also be kind of like North Node in the eighth house, like taking on loans. So kind of like utilizing someone else's resources, the bank's resources, or your partner's resources. Um,
Yeah.
I just thought I'd share that.
Your mom is a Libra rising? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been dealing with that and definitely like personal finances. There's been a lot of questions. No loans, but
Hmm.
definitely finances become a little shaky. Like you need to figure out how to deal with other people and like, you know, how to build more balance when it comes to money. Partner can also be figuring important right now. Like, you know, how do you share money with your partner? How
Yeah.
do you negotiate what kind of agreements you have with them?
Yeah. Those shared kind of expenses that you need to handle. You might look at them a little bit differently. Libra risings and Libra suns and Libra moons, but mostly Libra risings. Okay, so Saturn is moving into your sixth house of day-to-day work on the 7th of March for roughly the next 3 years. It is time to take responsibility for your health. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen people with transiting Saturn in the sixth house giving up on smoking, giving up on all sorts of bad habits. Saturn is going to help you have that sort of discipline to say, okay, no more of this. I know this is not useful. I know this is not helpful. I need to surrender it and kind of like be more intentional about my habits and about what my day-to-day looks like. I've also seen increased responsibility in terms of day-to-day work with transiting Saturn in your sixth house. So Libra risings, it may feel like the day-to-day work becomes a little bit more serious and there's kind of like extra pressure. It's like, okay, can I handle this? You probably can, but you do have to be quite kind of like committed and put effort and keep your nose to the grindstone. And sometimes the thing with Saturn is it requires a lot of effort, but you don't necessarily immediately see the results of your effort. So you just got to be patient. If you do take on extra work, if the work becomes like harder or like more challenging, if you commit to like a new health regimen, don't expect to see results overnight because you're probably going to end up sorely disappointed.
And sore.
It takes time. Exactly.
Sore and disappointed.
Exactly. Anything else with Saturn in the sixth house? Oh, I can share some of my like experience when transiting Saturn was moving through my sixth house. Oh, you're probably gonna need to go for like health checks. And if I were to make a recommendation, I would definitely recommend the dentist first because we're talking about Saturn. So yeah, there might be some work that needs to be done health-wise in terms of Saturnian topics such as bone, teeth, skin, possibly. Then what's going on with Pluto? Pluto enters Aquarius in your fifth house from the 23rd of March until the 11th of June. So it's giving you a taster of the next 2 decades of what and how your romantic life will look like for the next 2 decades, Libras. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if some Libra risings in particular were to change their attitudes and were to experience massive transformations in their life as a result of some big events happening in the area of children. There's also a possibility, if you do have kids already, that your children will go through big milestone moments, transformative events in their lives over the next 2 decades. And unless Libras, unless you have planets around 0 degrees of fixed signs, Aquarius, Leo, Scorpio, Taurus, next year you may not notice too much from Pluto going into Aquarius, but I would still keep note. I would still keep track of what's happening in the area of kids and romantic life, just because you may end up realizing that it's a much bigger deal than you initially thought it would be. I would say. Jupiter transits your seventh house of relationships, Libra risings, until the middle of May. If you're single, definitely opportunities to go into a relationship. If you are in a relationship, then your partner could be going through some exciting kind of like new ventures in their life. So maybe they're going through their own kind of like path of personal growth. It is a good time to enter into partnerships with someone else, not just romantically, but also business-wise. You may feel like other people bring you opportunities. They bring opportunities down your path. It could also be a good time to get a therapist, for instance, or a new accountant, just because the seventh house is also representative of people that we work with kind of like one-to-one. So if you were thinking of, I don't know, like getting a coach or working with someone that can kind of like open up new paths for you, great time to do so, especially if I may add, from the 12th of January of next year onwards, because up until that point, Mars is retrograde. So you don't want to rush into selecting someone. Then Jupiter, middle of May of next year until the last week of May of 2024, moves into Taurus in your 8th house. Libras, Jupiter for you rules your 3rd house and your 6th house of day-to-day work. So what's going on here? Some Libra risings might experience growth and expansion work-wise via other people's money. So you could get, for instance, funding or an investor or even a loan for your work. You may also, especially if you're in a partnership or in a relationship, you may also notice that your partner is making significantly more money than they used to make, which could be great news for both of you, and that may also allow you to kind of like reevaluate how you work, how you go about your own day-to-day work, and say, okay, maybe I don't want to do all of this work now that I can also kind of like manage my finances differently, since you're making a lot of money. Thank you, partner. Maybe I don't want to hold down like 5 jobs. Maybe I just want to have 2 jobs and do them very, very well. There can also be, until the last week of May of 2024, a sense of growth and expansion in your life, Libras, through inheritance or through assets that come your way via other people. Or you could see an uptick in your investments if you do have investments, I would say. The nodal axis shifts into your 1st house, 7th house from the 18th of July until January of 2025. Definitely a sense of expansion and growth and fated events and fated encounters relationship-wise, my dear Libras, with the North Node transiting your 7th house. It may feel like significant people come into your life that change the course of your path in some shape or form, and it may feel like relationships do require a lot of your attention, and maybe for some time it might feel like it's no longer about you, it's about what you're doing together with your partner, what you're doing as a team, I would say. Venus is going to be retrograde from the 23rd of July until the 4th of September in Leo in your 11th house, my dear Libras. Venus is also the ruler of your 8th house. Okay, so this is an interesting time in which I wouldn't necessarily recommend rushing into partnerships with friends, especially partnerships that involve some sort of a financial agreement. If you do decide to collaborate with a friend, Libras, on a lucrative project, I would quadruple check the contract that you're signing, and I would quadruple check just to make sure that you're all on the same page in terms of the parameters and the terms of the collaboration. You may also reconnect. So this is probably really good news. You may reconnect a lot with people from your past, especially friends from your past, dear Libras. And you might also experience a bit of a delay in terms of maybe getting a loan approved, a mortgage approved, or a funding or some sort of like sponsorship or scholarship or bursary whilst Venus is retrograde. That doesn't mean that you won't get it. It just means that it's probably going to get delayed for a little bit of time. And that's Libras.
Yeah, thank you for that. One thing I want to say for Libra risings with Saturn going into the 6th house, if you want to be proactive, start volunteering or give up a bad habit already. Like, I'm kind of thinking of potentially giving up sugar. So, so Saturn doesn't need to like send me to the dentist as much.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Okay. Scorpio risings, if you're sun, moon, but primarily rising. Saturn will be in your fifth house for the next 3 years, approximately, starting with March 7th, 2023. Saturn in the fifth house is at first could be like a fun suck. It might take out all the fun out of your life. Suddenly you feel like you have all these responsibilities. Even creative self-expression will likely feel like you need to be structured about your creative self-expression. I am a Libra rising, so I'm wrapping this up right now. And there's definitely been periods in which like I would go on a walk, so it's my fun time, but I would be filming. I would be like making content. So you're going to have to be very thoughtful about fun. You will have to like schedule it and be very like organized, Saturnian about it. There might be more responsibilities connected to the fifth house. Maybe you start a job as a graphics designer and there is more content you have to create. Maybe you have a child, right? Fifth house is very much children, or a child requires more of your attention, right? So there's kind of matters related to children become more serious and so like sober. You have to, I feel like sometimes with Saturn in the fifth house, you also have to take responsibility about your romantic involvements, and fifth house is the house of sex. So maybe kind of be more thoughtful with, who you let into your life and who you kind of have fun times with. Karma around sex can definitely show up at this time. Yeah, like freezing eggs. I think freezing eggs is such like a Saturn in the fifth house thing, right? Like Saturn, structure, longevity, and like fifth house is children. So you might want to think of that. Huh?
Taking control.
Taking control. Yeah, like just, it's either a child or it's a creative project or it's a romantic relationship, but like you are committing to something. You're getting kind of focused on something. So don't like lament the fact that Saturn is bringing this work to you. Instead, try to be proactive about it. Jupiter is currently in Aries, your sixth house, until May 16th. The nodes will switch and the North Node will go into your sixth house in July. There's also going to be a solar eclipse in your sixth house on April 20th. So a lot of focus on the house of work and daily life and service to other people, as well as health. So there might be, you may be starting a new job. Look back at what was happening in your life when Jupiter was in Aries from May into late October 2022. So there might be a new job. There might be kind of more responsibilities, more work that you're doing, something exciting, but something that requires a lot of time. It's likely you will not feel like, I think I have like a Scorpio rising client. I know I do. I have a Scorpio rising client who's like about to graduate and become like an acupuncturist. So obviously, it's very literal, like Jupiter in the sixth house, new job in the sector of health, Saturn in the fifth house. You have to be serious. You have to commit to things. Are you going to have as much fun as before? Probably not. But eventually you will learn how to have fun in this busy environment. So with Jupiter in the sixth, watch out for overloading yourself. Watch out for like sometimes, overeating too, because Jupiter can just be like, sure, do whatever you want. Jupiter goes into Taurus on May 16th until May 25, 2024. It will be in your seventh house. Jupiter in Taurus is lovely for starting new partnerships, starting new relationships, signing contracts, your partner experiencing some kind of blessing when it comes to professional life, getting more money, growing somehow, right? So it's either partnerships are growing in your life or your partner is going through growth. I wonder if any Scorpio risings are planning to have babies, because I feel like that would be very much like, your daily life is changing because there's a child in your life now.
I do have a client who is like doing exactly that. They're kind of like planning to like have kids, and they're kind of like reorganizing their life as a couple as a result of that. I'm like, yeah, perfect. Great timing.
Works out. Pluto is going to enter Aquarius, your fourth house, in late March, and will stay there until approximately June 11th. This is a beginning of a 20-year long period. So you're not necessarily going to see changes right away. But Pluto in Aquarius is a major shift when it comes to your place of living. I moved to the US approximately around the time Pluto went into my fourth house. You may be taking a new role within your family. You may be sort of becoming a head of the household, right? If you are having a child, you may be moving, you may be relocating, maybe you're taking kind of responsibility for your parents. So you can expect more transformations and changes when it comes to your place of living. Not necessarily you're going to see it in those 2 months, but eventually over the course of 20 years, likely how you see your role in the home and family right now, your place of living will change significantly. Venus will be retrograding in Leo in your 10th house from July 22nd until September 3rd. So 10th house, Venus retrograde could be about needing to rethink career, maybe feeling like you don't feel like you enjoy things. Maybe it's become kind of routine and mundane, or you don't feel valued, so you need to find a way to bring more fun into your career. It's Venus looking backwards, right? So looking back at your passions from before and maybe finding thinking that, like this could like looking back and doing something that you used to like to do could be something. Yeah, like needing to take more responsibility and find more creativity in your professional life could be the theme here. And I did already talk a little bit about the nodes, but definitely with North Node being in your 6th house and South Node being in your 12th house when the nodes go into Aries and Libra in July, your professional life is changing, and you are with that North Node in the 6th house. You are focusing a lot on being of service. I wonder if there's some kind of like idea that you want to be of service to someone, whether that means your child, whether that means a parent or professionally, but there goes a lot of focus on being of service and helping other people. With South Node in the 12th house, there might be certain self-defeating tendencies you need to examine, right? Like, are you being of service, but are you kind of sacrificing your needs? So you need to still have like a careful balance between your mental health and your physical energy you have to give to others.
I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that. Sagittarius?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Sagittarius risings especially, but also Sagittarius suns and Sagittarius moons. I think we have someone that says that they're a Scorpio rising and they're thinking of changing careers to an executive assistant. There you go. There you go. Exactly what Anastasia was saying.
Probably more work, but potentially more satisfaction
as well.
Yeah.
So Sagittarians, Saturn is going to enter your 4th house of home and living situation on the 7th of March for the next 3 years. So you're probably going to feel like your responsibilities are at home are on the rise. So maybe more kind of like pressure to provide for the family, for instance, more pressure to step into a role of authority at home, maybe increased responsibilities that you're also taking on behalf of a parent. That is also very, very possible. Over the next 3 years, there is a chance that you may restructure your home and living situation and also leave a home behind. So maybe kind of like sell a property or let go of a property, or feel like, okay, you've had a good ride here, but now it's time to move in a new direction, maybe in a new neighborhood or something along those lines. Pluto enters your 3rd house of learning, studies, and communication on the 23rd of March until the 11th of June. So you're getting a little bit of a feeler of what the next 2 decades look like for you in this direction. I feel like you're really going to fall into something, maybe quite obsessively, when it comes to your education. So you may, I'm kind of like thinking of you discovering something that you're very maybe passionate about, or something that really speaks to you in terms of how your mind works, and you may kind of like become like deeply entrenched into it. You might feel like you want to start reading all the books, you want to take all the classes, all the courses, all of that. Definitely this transit, especially if you have siblings, may usher in a period of transformation, of major kind of like life events, of major kind of death and rebirth, symbolically speaking, for at least one of your siblings. Maybe they're going to let you know that, I don't know, they're changing countries, they're like changing their profession, they are deciding to like have a child, even though initially maybe they work out completely against it. So something along those lines. Jupiter, your chart ruler, transits the 5th house of enjoyment until the middle of May. Okay, this is a fun time. You are going to have a lot of fun, Sagittarius risings, throughout this period. Many opportunities to go party, to enjoy yourselves, to dive into creative projects. It is a particularly fertile time for those of you who are looking to have kids. Now, if you're looking to have kids, then this transit is great. If you're not looking to have kids, then I would be extra careful. And last but not least, Jupiter is also the ruler of your 4th house of home. So there can be a sense of increased enjoyment somehow that is also bringing with it an extra layer of responsibility at home that comes with your home and family life and living situation. So to give an example, maybe you're moving into a new home, or you're starting to kind of like plan to have a family, and you're super happy about it, and there's going to be some really good and fun times, but at the same time you're also aware of the seriousness of what you are committing to home and family wise. And then Jupiter moves into your 6th house of day-to-day work and health and daily habits, Sagittarians, from the middle of May until the last week of May of 2024. New opportunities to take on at work. I'll tell you this, you're probably going to be very busy. Like it's a good time work-wise. You may feel like you're learning a lot at work, like you're kind of like expanding in terms of skill set, in terms of how you make yourselves of service, Sagittarians. But I'll just say this, have fun whilst you can until the middle of May, because afterwards it may feel like work is really much front and center, I'd say. Now, you may feel very appreciative of that because it's work that you're personally invested in, but not so much time for kind of leisurely activities. Venus is going to be retrograde in your 9th house of traveling, foreign lands, education, higher education in particular, from the 23rd of July until the 4th of September. If you are traveling, I would ensure, especially if you're traveling long distance, I would ensure that you have all the paperwork, all the documents, all of the visas that you need to have with you. There could be some kind of like maybe miscommunication or challenges, or maybe a feeling of being delayed as a result of not having everything that you need kind of like with you when you do travel. There could also be some maybe funny misunderstandings. I don't know, maybe if they're going to feel funny in the moment, they might feel funny in hindsight. Funny misunderstandings with coworkers from a different country, maybe from a different office. So if you work for like a multinational company, you could kind of like not exactly be on the same wavelength with people from a different office, possibly because there's these kind of like significant cultural differences, I'd say. You might also feel inspired to revisit maybe some places that you've traveled to in the past. Great idea to do that with Venus retrograde in your 9th house. Another major thing that is happening for you Sagittarians in 2023 is the nodal axis is moving from Taurus Scorpio to Aries Libra. So the transiting north node is moving into your 5th house, and the south node is moving into your 11th house of goals for the future and trends. A period of growth of 1.5 years until the beginning of 2025. When it comes to children, passions and hobbies, creative self-expression, you may feel particularly inspired and creative throughout this period. It is a good time to focus on creative projects, to allocate, to dedicate yourself to new exciting endeavors, maybe in terms of also your passions and hobbies. You may discover new passions and hobbies, which is super, super exciting. Also fated events when it comes to children. As I said, a child may very well come into your life all the way until the beginning of 2025. And it might feel like your plans for the future are changing completely, especially with the South Node transiting the 11th house. You might also let go of some friends and friendships just because they have kind of like, they've been phased out of your life. You may no longer feel aligned with them on a mentality level in terms of values. Now, it's probably not going to be kind of like a big blast of, oh, I no longer want to speak with you. But you may just feel like you're kind of like slowly taking some distance from some old friendships that are that have served their purpose, I'd say. And I think that is Sagittarius.
We have someone saying, I'm a Sagittarius sun and rising. It resonates on how life's unfolding for me. I'm actually trying to access into a new house situation in other country. Thanks for sharing your knowledge. Yeah, makes sense.
Good luck to you.
Yeah, and also a very fertile time. So get creating, right?
That's right.
Babies or not. My God, my computer is freaking out. Of course.
Mercury.
Okay.
Please help us. Be with us.
Mercury, please. I should have lit up my Mercury candle, but not. I forgot. No. I'm in the Mercury ruled perfection, so I'm in a Mercury ruled year too, so it makes sense. Capricorn rising specifically, but also you can listen for your sun or your moon. Saturn will be in your third house starting March 7th until approximately 2025, 6, early
2026.
2026. Yeah, early 2026.
February 2026. Yeah.
So Saturn goes in the third house, and there might be certain, I feel like Saturn in the third creates a pressure around verbal and mental output. Like you feel pressure to speak about certain things, you feel pressure to write, you feel pressure to produce, right? Sometimes it's because you are inspired and you feel like you have all these things you want to share. Saturn in the third for Capricorn risings is like volumes, writing volumes, not like writing a text to someone. Like you may feel inspired to like write a series, write a book. I actually randomly met like a Sagittarius rising in a coffee shop, and he's like a paramedic or like on-site medic, but he writes. He's able to go and like write from a coffee shop. So he's been writing for the past approximately 2 years, and like, you know, Saturn would have been in his third house for the last 3 years. So pressure to speak, pressure to write, pressure to produce. Maybe, you know, maybe you go back to school. Saturn in the third house may sometimes create a sense that whatever you're trying to accomplish, you need more skills, you need more knowledge. So you will need to like study for an exam, right? Or like write a paper, or like, yeah, like sit some kind of exams. There might be more duties related to your neighborhood, to your siblings, to your neighbors, some kind of new role within a community. And just, yeah, sort of like karma around siblings, relationships with siblings, more trips, more kind of pressure around your technology in your life, like needing to upgrade things, needing to streamline things, to make things easier. But yeah, like there might be things at first might feel kind of blocked, or it might be hard for you to say what you want to say, but as long as you keep pushing, like let's say you're a writer, like if you don't feel like writing, write a little bit, right? Like kind of come up with some kind of fun task for yourself, keep going. Saturn rewards all of us if we persevere, right? So whenever Saturn makes things hard, because it wants you to learn that, you know, in order to get a candy, you need to go run a mile or something like that. Jupiter for Capricorn risings is currently in Aries. Jupiter will be in Aries until May 16th, and you're going to get an eclipse, a solar eclipse in Aries on April 20th. So there's a big kind of transformation, a lot of focus on home and family. There may be change. You might be moving. You might be getting a new family member. You might be becoming a homeowner, right? Or becoming the one who's like in charge of your family. Definitely some kind of major growth and a lot of focus when it comes to home and family. In July, the Nords, North and South Node will switch, and North Node will go into your fourth house, South Node will go into your 10th house. So even more of a sense that you are starting to prioritize, yes, home and family, but also things that make you feel comfortable and secure over perhaps recognition in a traditional kind of sense. Like you're digging deep, you're trying to figure out, you know, like once again, if you're a writer, you're trying to figure out what is the story that you want to tell versus what other people are trying to or expecting of you. Yeah, and professional changes are definitely possible starting like in the middle of the year into 2024 because the South Node will be transiting your 10th house of career. Jupiter goes into Taurus, your fifth house of romance, creativity, and children on May 16th, and until May 25th, will be blessing you with more fertility, better luck when it comes to being creative, right? So if you are a creative individual, if your job relies on the spark of insight and inspiration, this would be a really lovely time for Capricorn risings. Definitely Taurus. Taurus to me, together with like any water sign, really feels fertile, even more so than another kind. So if you're trying to have a child, if you've been, you know, it has been taking you some time, this might be the time when you do get pregnant. But together, like oh, am I back? All good. My phone is telling me we're low on battery, but I still have 20%. We're like, we can do it. We're gonna do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah, so creativity, romance, like fertile ground for new relationships, new kind of fun, joy, creative self-expression. Pluto goes into your second house. Hooray. Pluto will slowly start to leave your first house, right? I'm sure every Capricorn is excited about that. In late March until June 11th. So Pluto in the second house brings transformation when it comes to finances. Once again, career, because like Pluto in the second house, if you're born with it, you're more likely to transform professionally a few times. So new career, new long-term kind of financial changes. Maybe you're trying to like, I feel like, yeah, like there's growth in self-confidence, growth in power, but definitely a sense of releasing something and transforming things potentially, financially, and in terms of self-worth. And finally, Venus will be retrograding in Leo, your eighth house, from July 22nd until September 3rd. Eighth house is your partner's money, debts, taxes, any resources you share with other people. So you may need to examine how you interact with others. I feel like, you know, Leo is a very generous sign. So if you have Leo in your eighth house, it's likely that you're very generous with others. But are other people as like, do they reciprocate, right? Like maybe you need to rethink and just have some kind of honest conversations when it comes to your money, my money, and how you share things with other people. And your partner can be going through some kind of financial change too.
I'm thinking of a specific Capricorn rising that I know, and oh yeah, like if there was like one way you could characterize them, like they're so, if you ask me, excessively generous with their partner to the point where I'm like, is all of this really necessary? Right. Like, why are you doing like, all of this?
What are you compensating for, right? Sometimes
right.
You might wonder. Yeah.
That's right. I'm like, don't you think like you're enough as a person? Do you just like, why do you feel like you have to like give and overgive in order to be valuable to them? But yeah, no, that's a very, very good point. Everyone's running low on battery, so let's power through the last few signs. We got this. Aquarius suns and Aquarius risings. My dear Aquarians, I bet you are excited to hear that Saturn's getting out of your first house. So if you've been dealing with in the past 2.5 years until March of next year with some like health issues, or if you've been feeling kind of like stuck and stagnant and just feeling like, oh, life is kind of like this chore to go through, You're probably going to be able to breathe easily, but your homework moves into the area of money and resources. So with Saturn transiting your second house of income from the 7th of March of next year, 2023, until the beginning of 2026, you really need to like take responsibility, take control of your financial situation. Make a budget. That's my recommendation. Look at what you no longer need to spend money on. Remove unnecessary expenses from your life. That's what Saturn wants from you. It's like, do you really need to have 20 subscriptions? Do you even use them? Maybe not really. It's a good idea. It's a good idea to budget. It's a good idea to make long-term goals and commitments financially that will ensure long-term financial security and stability for you, my dear Aquarians. Pluto moves into your first house, beginning of, my apologies, end of March, last week of March of next year, until the 11th of June. Now, unless you have planets around 0 degrees of fixed signs, so Aquarius, Leo, Scorpio, Taurus, you may not necessarily feel this very, very strongly to start with. However, Pluto entering your first house is kind of like that aha moment where you realize, oh, wow, I'm a different person. I have changed dramatically. My relationship with myself has changed dramatically. You may have some significant epiphanies, some kind of like death and rebirth experiences where you kind of like look at your life and say, I'm a new person, or I want to do life completely differently. Pluto is famous for pushing us to access certain parts of ourselves that maybe have been buried. So Pluto might bring stuff to the surface that was in you, maybe untapped potential, and now all of a sudden it's kind of like front and center, and it's like, oh, I gotta use this, I gotta step into my power, I gotta own this aspect of who I am. Jupiter is transiting your third house of communication, learning, writing until the middle of May, a prolific time to write. So if you need to write a thesis, if you are writing your book, if you need to take some classes, courses, your mind is like running 300 miles an hour, and it might feel like you are like so good at learning fast. Even like a new language, you could learn it like super quickly and easily and fast. Jupiter transiting your third house, if you haven't already bought a new car in 2022, might push you to do so. It's like, okay, new ride, fancy, fast, maybe red, because you're in Aries.
Yeah.
You might just feel inspired to do all of that. Then middle of May until the last week of May of 2024, Jupiter moves into your fourth house of home. This is an auspicious time to buy property, to relocate, to move into a new home, maybe a bigger home, because Jupiter likes big. It does not like small. Saturn likes smaller. Jupiter likes bigger, and I want to say more luxurious because it's Jupiter in Taurus.
Taurus,
so
for sure.
Taste.
Yeah.
The family could go through an expansion. It doesn't necessarily have to be like you having a kid. It could be someone in the family, like cousins, siblings, just kind of like maybe having children or getting married, and then like a new member gets added to the family. It could also be a good time, if you've ever thought about doing this, especially Aquarius risings, to maybe spend some time living abroad, just to kind of like get a taster, get a feel for what it's like, get a feel for like a different culture, a different country. Would I like it here? Would I grow here? So you could feel inspired and even have the opportunity to do that, Aquarians. Venus is retrograde in your seventh house of relationships, nonetheless, from the 23rd of July until the 4th of September. Now, throughout this period, you may not exactly agree with a partner, especially if you are in a relationship. You may not exactly agree on where to live or on where to buy a new home or on what sort of like furniture to get for the house. It's kind of like a very Venusian topic. You might have like disagreements or not feel exactly on the same page in terms of like art and beauty and tastes and like what color to paint the walls. There could also be people from the past coming back to your attention relationship-wise, very, very possibly. Now, I'm not here to give you romantic advice, but before you jump and move to a different country for an old flame, I would maybe at least wait for Venus to get out of retrograde. 4th of September onwards. It may feel tempting, it may feel fun, it may feel like a flamboyant and great idea, and then you might look back and say, but I don't even like you that much anymore. Why am I here? Why did I do
Do
this?
not
The neural,
rush.
exactly. It could feel like, yes, like I'm enjoying this and this is so much fun and I've missed this and you give me like so much attention, but are you really my future? That is the question. The nodal axis shifts into Aries Libra. So your third house, ninth house axis, traveling, communication, learning, from the middle of July, the 18th of July to be more precise, until January of 2025. It does feel like your focus is going to be on maybe learning new practical skills, maybe skills that you can implement on a day-to-day. You could be signing up for like new practical courses, maybe starting to learn a new language, maybe taking driving classes, my dear Aquarius. And it may also feel until January of 2025 like you're letting go of some old beliefs and old maybe life philosophies. What used to be a source of meaning for you, you might look at it and say, no, but I don't really think that the meaning of life is this for me any more. And the focus shifts from like higher education to more concrete, tangible education. It's like, how do I bring the abstract into the concrete, into the tangible? I'd say. And I think that's Aquarius.
Yeah, and sometimes you bring it down by starting a business once in a while, because third house is the place of business, right?
Correct. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Pisces. 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 So Saturn will go into your first house starting March 7th and for the next 2.5 years, 3 years. Saturn in the first house creates pressure on you. There might be certain health matters that you need to attend to, or just kind of be more thoughtful with your health. You may realize that you're not, a teenager anymore, and you need to be more careful. You need to be more thoughtful. You need to exercise more regularly. You need to work, like kind of eat better, perhaps. There may be a need to take responsibility for your life, right? Like Saturn moves very slowly, and Saturn teaches you the lesson of time. So when Saturn is in the first house, you may suddenly feel like time is not limitless. You need to sort of, like people retire with Saturn in the first house. They change jobs. They kind of move. There's like a lot of major serious questions. Like you can become a parent, and there might be more pressure around Saturn in the first house. So yeah, like just you may need to take responsibility for your parents, is another thing I'm thinking. So you just like you need to be Saturnian. You become Saturnian for the next 3 years. The serious person who maybe even like you become like a teacher, so you teach other people the lessons of Saturn. Jupiter is in Aries, your second house, until May 16th. There's good luck financially. Take a look at what was happening with your money and your sense of self-worth between May and October 2022. You may see a continuation of that. Like if you've been looking for a job, maybe you hear back and you get that job. Maybe you start a business. There might be some kind of like exciting new beginnings. Even more so with the North Node entering your second house starting July, and also there being a solar eclipse in your second house in April 20th. So South Node will be in your 8th house. North Node will be in your second house for the next 1.5 years, starting in July. So until early 2026. And this is like, there might be sticking with the topic of like responsibility, right? Like you may be taking more responsibility for someone else because South Node is in the house of your partner. Maybe your partner is undergoing a change professionally and decide to take a sabbatical, and you have to be the solo breadwinner in the family. Maybe wait, am I back? I keep getting these, like my phone is freaking out. Yeah, like maybe you start a new business and you're kind of like needing to figure out how to balance your finances. With South Node in the 8th house, there might also be like a need to release a debt or like pay off certain taxes, handle professional matters that you have been neglecting, right? Jupiter enters Taurus, your 3rd house, May 16th, and stays there until late May 2024. Jupiter in the 3rd house is like what you were talking about, very prolific, good for writing, good for creating things, good for, and like if you are starting a business or if you are taking responsibility for things financially, with Jupiter in the third house, you may realize that like now you need to go to school, you need to upgrade your skills, you need to upgrade your knowledge. You maybe need to make changes to your immediate environment to be more oh my God, it's gotten dark like in a second, I feel like in my little square. But yeah, like could be very inspirational time for writing, for creative self-expression, for maybe taking ownership of your skills, teaching once again. I feel like being some kind of person that others look up to with Jupiter in the third house. Pluto goes into Aquarius in late March and leaves Aquarius June 11th. This is beginning of the 20-year-long cycle. You're not necessarily going to see all of the results right away, but Aquarius is your 12th house. In 12th house fashion, there might either be a need to heal something, to release your self-defeating tendencies, right? Like, are you living life thinking that other people have control over your choices, right? Or are you being more in charge? Like Pisces rising, so the negative can be kind of leaning towards like victim mentality once in a while, at least. So, of course, there's lots of exceptions, right? But just kind of like being more empowered, letting something go, releasing bad habits, releasing past traumas, being more in charge of who you are. But like you may need to tap into the darkness. Like Pluto in the 12th house will likely make you look at things that you've been like, I'm fine, this doesn't matter. So yeah, like having to look at things that you may have neglected. And finally, Venus will be retrograding in Leo, your sixth house, from July 22nd or 23rd, dependent if you're in Europe, and until September 3rd or 4th, also if you're in Europe. So Venus retrograding in the sixth house, once again, feels like there might be like a need to heal professional relationships if there is any tensions and any drama, kind of renegotiate things, find more coherence, more alignment. Or there may also be a need to rethink the way you take care of your health. Maybe let go of some bad habits, transform your self-defeating notions, things you tell yourself, and like starting to take better care of your health. I think that's it.
I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Really kind of like looking very closely for Pisces risings at their mental health, addictions. Like so many times, like I've seen addiction show up in someone's chart in the 12th house.
Mm-hmm.
So with Pluto coming in, it's like, okay, you can no longer ignore this. You've got to like change your attitude around it.
I'm just gonna plug my phone, but I'm still here.
Go, 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 go. I just feel like we've done like a proper marathon. I hope this is going to be savable so that people can also rewatch if they want to, or people who haven't been able to join live.
Yeah, that's why I'm plugging in my phone so it doesn't suddenly disconnect and we like lose the 2 hours, 17 minutes of our conversation. Thank you so much for doing this. Like, this was so much fun. This is our second collaboration. I've enjoyed it properly. I feel like I always trust your opinions, and I know that we have like similar outlooks on things, and it really helps.
It's such a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me in the first place. I feel like this is going to be the second of maybe many more to come collaborations.
I'd love that. Yeah. Yeah, and check Rax out if you haven't. Written in the Stars by Rax on YouTube, Rax Unbelievable on Instagram. Check me out if you haven't. Anastasia does astrology on both. You can subscribe to my Instagram to get exclusive content, and you can get 2023 readings with me. What's happening for you right now? What are the things you're like offering?
If folks are looking to work with me one-to-one, so I'm doing client consultations. I'm currently taking bookings for the second half of February. So for those who are interested in getting a personal consultation to understand their natal chart better, to look at the year ahead more closely, to maybe understand compatibility or topics such as astrocartography. So how does the place where you live impact you? My website is writteninthestars-astrology.com. That's where you can purchase any and all of the consultations that I offer.
Well, thank you. Thank you everyone who watched and stuck around for this talk. Yeah, see you again. See you soon.
See you on the other side, folks. Happy 2023.
Happy New Year. Yeah. Happy New Year to everyone. Have a great year.
You too. Bye, everyone.